Captain Adrian Hale had always considered himself a man of logic and duty. As the lead human ambassador to Zithra Prime, he had trained for years, studying alien cultures, learning interstellar diplomacy, and rehearsing every possible scenario that could arise when humans first made meaningful contact with a civilization beyond Earth. He had expected tension, cultural misunderstandings, perhaps even hostility. What he had not expected was to be standing in the throne room of the Zithurian queen, being stared at with a mixture of curiosity and intensity, while hearing words that would change his life forever. The spaceship carrying Adrian had barely exited the asteroid belt when Zithurian sensors had detected it. Before he could even react, the massive, metallic form of a Zithurian vessel had emerged from the shadows of a nearby moon. Its hull shimmered with a strange, liquid-like surface that reflected the dim light of the distant sun. Adrian's ship had been intercepted without warning, pulled into a tractor beam, and within moments, he had found himself aboard the alien vessel. The Zithurians were unlike anything humanity had imagined. They were tall, graceful, with elongated limbs and eyes that seemed to see not only the physical world, but also the emotions and intentions of anyone they observed. Their language was musical, almost impossible to fully reproduce with human vocal cords, but through translation devices, communication was possible. Yet the words themselves carried weight beyond meaning. There was emotion, authority, and history in each syllable. Adrian had been led through corridors that glowed softly with bioluminescent light. The walls pulsed slightly, as though alive, and he could feel a strange warmth under his feet, a subtle energy that made him aware of his heartbeat in a way he had never experienced before. He had been trained for first contact, but the reality was disorienting. Every sense was heightened, and his mind raced to process both awe and anxiety. Finally, he entered the throne room. It was vast, circular, and dominated by a throne that seemed carved from a single piece of translucent crystal. Sitting upon it was Queen Lysera, the ruler of the Zithurians. She was even more striking than the reports had suggested. Her presence was magnetic, and Adrian felt a sudden urge to stand straighter, to project every ounce of human dignity he could muster. "Captain Adrian Hale," she said, her voice melodious yet commanding, "welcome to Zithra Prime." Adrian bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty, it is an honor. I come in peace, representing the people of Earth." Lysera's eyes studied him closely. "I am aware of your purpose here. You seek alliance, trade, understanding. Yet I sense there is more than diplomacy within you. Curiosity, courage, perhaps even something more." Adrian blinked. He had trained for diplomacy, not flattery from an alien queen. I hope to represent humanity well," he said carefully. Lysera smiled faintly. "You already have in ways you do not yet understand." The first few days of Adrian's stay were a careful dance of etiquette, observation, and cautious conversation. He met with advisors, scientists, and generals, learning about Zithurian society. He was struck by their efficiency, their harmony with technology, and the way they valued empathy alongside intellect. Humans had much to learn, but Adrian also noticed something he had not expected. The Zithurians admired certain human qualities: resilience, creativity, the ability to adapt under pressure. It was during a ceremonial event that everything changed. Adrian had been positioned near the edge of the grand hall when a sudden tremor shook the floor. One of the decorative platforms collapsed, sending shards of crystal flying. Without thinking, Adrian lunged forward, pushing Lysera out of the path of danger. The shards grazed his arm, but he barely noticed, adrenaline coursing through him. Lysera's attendants rushed to her side, but the queen only looked at Adrian with wide, intense eyes. "You risked your life for me," she said softly. "Few humans would act without hesitation." Adrian shook his head. "It was instinct. I couldn't just stand by." Her gaze lingered on him, almost piercing. "Instinct, yes, but also fate." He didn't understand, not yet, but over the following days he began to notice subtle changes. The court's atmosphere shifted, advisors whispered, and Lysera herself spent long periods in quiet reflection, often seeking him out. Zithurian scientists eventually explained the phenomenon. The physical bond triggered by the incident was unique, rare, and biologically significant. Lysera's body was beginning a process that only occurred when a Zithurian was linked to a compatible being, one who could carry their hybrid offspring. Adrian could barely comprehend the implications. "You mean you're saying I—" "Yes," Lysera said, her voice steady. "You are linked to me. I am expecting your child." The words hung in the air like an impossible truth. Adrian swallowed hard. "Expecting my child?" Lysera nodded. "It is rare, even among our species, but it has happened. And now I ask something that may seem sudden, perhaps even impossible." Adrian braced himself. "Anything, Your Majesty." "Marry me," she said simply. "I am expecting your child, and the child's survival depends on the bond between us. I cannot carry it alone, nor can I ensure the future of our species without your cooperation." Adrian's mind spun. Duty to humanity, the responsibility of the unborn hybrid, and the danger of the political landscape collided in an overwhelming storm. He had trained for negotiation, not this. Nothing in human history had prepared him for such a moment. "You must understand," Lysera continued, "this is not merely personal. There are factions within Zithuria who oppose the unification of our species with humans. They see hybrids as a threat, a challenge to their authority. If we are to survive, if the child is to survive, we must act as one." Adrian took a deep breath, trying to focus on clarity amidst chaos. I need time to consider." Lysera reached out, placing a slender hand on his. There was warmth there, more than human warmth, a subtle connection that made his thoughts feel sharper, yet more attuned to her emotions. "Time is a luxury we may not have. Forces move against us even now." Before he could ask what she meant, alarms blared throughout the palace. Adrian's training kicked in immediately. The Zithurian security system sprang to life, and Lysera's attendants rushed toward her. Yet the queen did not flee. Instead, she grabbed Adrian's arm. "There is no time for hesitation," she said. "You must stay, for our child." They moved quickly through hidden passages, corridors lined with shimmering walls that seemed to bend and shift with each step. Adrian marveled at the alien architecture, the way the palace itself seemed alive, responding to its inhabitants. Yet there was no time to marvel. Their path was interrupted by rebel forces, Zithurians who had never accepted Lysera's rule, and now sought to exploit the hybrid child as a means to power. Adrian drew his sidearm, feeling the strange comfort of human instincts guiding him. He fired with precision, covering Lysera as they ducked behind a curved wall. She watched him with wide eyes, and for the first time, Adrian noticed a flicker of vulnerability in the queen. She was regal, fearless, and brilliant, but also alive like any human being, subject to fear, hope, and uncertainty. They reached a small chamber hidden from the main corridors. Lysera caught her breath, and Adrian did the same, muscles tense and senses alert. "Adrian," she said softly, her voice tinged with urgency and emotion, "do you understand now why I asked you to stay? The rebels will not stop until they control the palace, or they destroy it entirely." He nodded slowly. "I understand. But staying, marrying you, this is not just about survival, is it?" "No," she admitted. "It is about the future, about uniting our species, about ensuring that life continues." Adrian's mind raced. He thought of Earth, of his family, of humanity's fragile place in the cosmos. And yet, standing there in a hidden chamber beneath the heart of Zithuria, he felt the undeniable truth of what she had said. The child was more than a hybrid. It was a bridge, a hope for a future where humans and Zithurians could coexist, perhaps even thrive together. Hours passed as they planned their next move. Adrian suggested strategies, combining human ingenuity with Lysera's knowledge of Zithurian technology and culture. They would need allies, and carefully chosen ones, to counter the rebels' plans. The queen agreed, impressed with his adaptability and courage. As night, or what passed for night on Zithra Prime, fell, Adrian realized that he was no longer merely a diplomat. He was a protector, a partner in a struggle far greater than he had ever imagined. And somewhere deep inside he felt a stir of something unexpected, not just responsibility but connection. Lysera watched him silently. "You fear the unknown," she said. "Yet it calls to you, does it not?" Adrian met her gaze. "It does, more than I can explain." She smiled faintly. "Then we begin together, for our child, for the future." And so, with the palace above them echoing with the sounds of rebellion and unrest, Adrian Hale and Queen Lysera prepared to face forces that threatened not only their lives, but the future of two species. In the quiet, hidden chamber a bond had formed, one of courage, trust, and the first fragile stirrings of love. For Adrian the truth was clear, he could not turn back. Whatever awaited them outside, he would face it. For the child, for Lysera, for humanity, he would fight. And somewhere in the depths of his mind, he felt it, the impossible certainty that their lives were now entwined in ways that went beyond reason, beyond duty, beyond fear. The future was uncertain, but it was theirs to shape. As dawn approached on Zithra Prime, they stood together in the hidden chamber, listening to the distant echoes of the rebels' movement. Adrian took a deep breath, gripping Lysera's hand firmly. "We face the storm together," he said. Lysera's eyes glimmered with resolve. "Together," she agreed. Outside, the palace awaited, and with it, a battle that would test courage, loyalty, and the very essence of what it meant to be human and Zithurian. But inside, in that quiet, hidden space, a new chapter had begun. One that could change the fate of worlds. Adrian Hale and Queen Lysera emerged from the hidden chamber cautiously, stepping into the heart of a palace that now felt more like a battlefield than a seat of power. The corridors, once gleaming with bioluminescent light, were scarred with signs of the rebel attack. Crystal shards littered the floors, and the distant echoes of alarm sirens reminded them that every step could be met with violence. Lysera's hand remained tightly in Adrian's, a subtle reassurance that gave him a steadying sense of purpose. The hybrid child within her stirred faintly, almost as if sensing the tension in the air. Adrian felt a sharp pang of protectiveness. This child was more than a symbol. It was a living bridge between two worlds, and he would not allow anything to harm it. Their immediate goal was to reach the inner sanctum of the palace, a secure area known only to Lysera and a few trusted advisors. It was there they could plan a counterattack and rally loyal Zithurian factions. Every corridor they navigated was a gamble, every corner potentially hiding a rebel or a trap. Yet Adrian marveled at the queen's calm. She moved with the confidence of a ruler, every decision precise, every gesture deliberate. It reminded him that she was more than royalty. She was a strategist, a leader forged by experience and circumstance. When they reached the inner sanctum, Lysera activated the security matrix, sealing the doors behind them. The room was circular, lined with panels that displayed the palace's systems, communications channels, and maps of the surrounding city. Several Zithurian aides immediately began reporting the rebels' positions, movements, and likely objectives. Adrian leaned over the holographic map, his mind working fast. "They've split into three main groups," he said. "One is trying to take the throne, another is sweeping through the outer wings, and the third is heading toward the palace docking bay." He paused, considering the options. "If we coordinate our loyal forces strategically, we can cut them off and prevent them from regrouping." Lysera's eyes flickered with approval. "Your instincts, human, are sharper than I expected. You see patterns that many Zithurians overlook." Adrian smiled faintly, though the tension in his shoulders did not ease. I've trained for strategy, but this isn't a simulation. Lives are at stake, she nodded, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. And yet together we can succeed. The hybrid child within me will inherit a world strengthened by both our species. That future depends on this moment. They spent the next hours organizing defenses, sending messages to loyal factions, and preparing the palace for battle. Adrian's mind never stopped. He studied the Zithurian weapons, their energy shields, and the layout of the palace with meticulous attention. He realized that human adaptability, thinking outside the constraints of tradition, could be a valuable advantage in the coming conflict. As night fell, the rebels made their move. Explosions shook the outer walls, and the air was filled with the sound of distant combat. Adrian and Lysera watched from a secure observation deck, their faces illuminated by the flickering lights of the city beyond. "They are determined," Adrian said, gripping the railing. "They will not stop until either you or the child is gone." Lysera's expression hardened. "Then we will not give them the chance. Prepare yourself, Adrian. Tonight, we fight not just for survival, but for the future." The first wave of rebels breached the outer defenses, and loyal Zithurian forces met them head-on. Energy pulses lit the sky, and the sound of combat echoed through the palace. Adrian joined the defenders, using his knowledge of human tactics to anticipate the rebels' movements. He directed Zithurian units to flank enemy positions, employing strategies that combined human ingenuity with Zithurian precision. Lysera, meanwhile, moved through the battlefield with grace and authority. Her presence inspired the loyal forces, and she used her own abilities to manipulate energy barriers, protecting civilians and soldiers alike. Adrian watched her in awe. She was more than a queen, she was a force of nature, her power amplified by the unique bond with their unborn child. Despite their efforts, the rebels were cunning and ruthless. They adapted quickly, targeting weak points and attempting to bypass the palace defenses. Adrian realized that a direct confrontation with their leader was inevitable. The rebel commander, a Zithurian named Kale, had once been a trusted advisor, but had turned against Lysera out of fear and ambition. Adrian and Lysera prepared to face him. They moved through a secret passage leading to the heart of the palace, where Kale had set up his command post. The corridor was narrow, forcing them to proceed cautiously. Adrian's sidearm was ready, but he knew that the coming confrontation would require more than firepower. It would require strategy, courage, and trust. When they reached the chamber, Kale was waiting. His expression was one of cold calculation. "So the human thinks he can protect the queen and the child," he sneered. "You are out of your depth, Adrian Hale." Adrian stepped forward, his voice steady. "I am not alone, and the future we protect is bigger than any of us." Kale laughed, a chilling sound. "Future. The future belongs to those strong enough to take it, not to hybrids or diplomats." The battle erupted. Kale's forces attacked with precision, but Adrian and Lysera were ready. Together, they coordinated defenses, using the palace architecture to their advantage. Adrian directed energy pulses to disrupt enemy formations, while Lysera manipulated shields to protect their allies. Their synergy was remarkable, the humans' adaptability complementing the Zithurian queen's control and experience. In the midst of the fight, Adrian noticed something extraordinary. Lysera's connection with the unborn child seemed to enhance her abilities. Her movements were faster, her energy manipulation more precise. It was as if the child's presence amplified her strength, creating a bond that could not be broken. Adrian felt a surge of determination. They were fighting not just for survival, but for the promise of a new era. Kale, realizing he could not win through brute force alone, attempted a direct attack on Lysera. Adrian intercepted, using both strategy and reflex to protect her. They fought as a team, moving with synchronization that surprised even the rebels. Every move, every decision was guided by trust and necessity. Finally, after what felt like hours but could have been minutes, Kale was cornered. Lysera faced him directly, her expression calm but resolute. "It ends now," she said. "Your rebellion is over." Kale's defiance faltered. The combined force of human ingenuity and Zithurian power was too much. With one final effort, Lysera incapacitated him, ensuring that he could not threaten them or the child again. The remaining rebels, seeing their leader defeated, surrendered or fled. The palace was battered but intact. Loyal forces began to restore order, tending to the wounded and repairing defenses. Adrian and Lysera stood together in the central hall, exhaustion and relief mingling on their faces. "You were remarkable," Lysera said softly, placing a hand on his arm. "Without your courage and strategy, we might not have survived." Adrian shook his head. "It was a team effort. You were remarkable too, and I saw something today that I can't unsee. The bond with the child, it's incredible. It changes everything." Lysera nodded, her eyes glimmering. "It is the beginning of a new era, one that will unite our species, not through fear or dominance, but through cooperation, understanding, and hope." Adrian felt a warmth in his chest, a sense of purpose deeper than he had ever known. "Then we begin," he said. "Together." Lysera smiled, placing her hand over his. "Together," she agreed. In the weeks that followed, Adrian and Lysera worked tirelessly to rebuild the palace and heal the fractures within Zithurian society. They met with advisors, scientists, and civilians, fostering alliances and promoting understanding. Humans and Zithurians began to collaborate more closely, sharing knowledge, culture, and ideas. The hybrid child became a symbol of unity, a living testament to the potential of cooperation between species. Adrian took on a role that went beyond diplomacy. He trained with Zithurian forces, learned their advanced technologies, and shared human strategies that complemented their methods. He saw firsthand the value of blending strengths, human creativity and unpredictability with Zithurian precision and intellect. Lysera, in turn, demonstrated remarkable adaptability. She welcomed Adrian's perspective, incorporating human insights into her governance and strategy. Their partnership evolved into a deep mutual respect and affection. Though the future was uncertain, they faced it with confidence, united by purpose and by the life growing within Lysera. As months passed, Zithura Prime transformed. The palace, once a symbol of isolation and hierarchy, became a hub of collaboration. Citizens of all ranks contributed to rebuilding efforts, and the bond between humans and Zithurians strengthened. The hybrid child, though still unborn, inspired hope and optimism in every corner of the planet. One evening, as the twin suns of Zithura set, casting golden light across the city, Adrian and Lysera stood on a balcony overlooking the capital. The air was filled with the hum of life, the laughter of children, and the quiet pride of a society healing and growing stronger. Adrian placed a hand gently on Lysera's belly, feeling a subtle movement. "It's incredible," he whispered. "Our child, already part of this world." Lysera smiled, resting her forehead against his. "It is more than incredible, it is the future. And we will face it together, as partners, as guardians, and as a family." Adrian took a deep breath, absorbing the moment. He thought of Earth, of humanity, and of the journey that had brought him here. Courage, empathy, and the willingness to take risks had led them to this point. He realized that humanity's strength was not just in technology or intellect, but in the capacity to connect, to protect, and to hope. Lysera's eyes met his, filled with trust and quiet determination. "Our child will inherit a world shaped by both our species," she said. "A world where fear does not dictate action, but where understanding and courage guide every step." Adrian nodded, feeling a profound sense of responsibility and pride. "Then we will teach them well," he said. "And we will ensure that the bond we share between humans and Zithurians remains strong." As the twin suns dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the city, Adrian and Lysera stood together, hand in hand, united in purpose and hope. The palace behind them bore scars, yet it was alive with energy and promise. Their journey was far from over, but they faced it without fear. They had survived the storm, protected the future, and forged a bond that transcended species. And in that moment, Adrian understood something profound. Humanity's true strength lay not in domination, but in connection, in courage, in hope. And now, on Zithra Prime, that strength would shape the destiny of two worlds forever. The child within Lysera stirred once more, a gentle reminder that life, hope, and unity had triumphed over fear and chaos. Adrian tightened his grip on her hand, feeling the weight and promise of the future. Together they had faced impossible odds, and together they would ensure that humanity and Zithurians could flourish side by side, in a universe that suddenly felt a little smaller, a little brighter, and infinitely full of possibility.